Hello, people of YouTube. Today, I really want to go in depth on a question that has been on my mind for quite some time now, and that is, should we fear for cinema? Well, for me to fully answer that question, I should probably explain a little bit more about my love for film and what exactly I'm looking for when I go see one. Since I can remember, I have been in love with movies. When I was a little boy, me and my family, we moved around a lot. I was extremely lucky to see a lot of beautiful places and experience cultures other than my own. My environment was changing quite frequently, and because of my age, I was just soaking all of this stuff in, which, as kids, we do without even realizing. Traveling is, though often unconsciously, a very educational experience. When we go someplace new, we are out of our comfort zone. We're seeing, hearing, touching, and smelling things that we've never experienced before, enriching who we are and our outlook on the world. The ultimate outcome is when this inspires you to want to learn more, build something, help someone, or simply change your state of mind for the better. Now, this is the internet, so I don't expect everyone to agree with everything that I say in this video, but I think we can all agree that allowing something new into our lives is an important thing to do. Well, when I was 6 years old, my mom took me someplace new. The cinema. I even remember the film we saw. It was a Disney film called Dinosaur. And from what I can remember, it was actually a pretty cool movie. Had an incredibly well done opening sequence, with some pretty neat visuals throughout. When I was a kid, there wasn't anything you couldn't ask me about dinosaurs that I didn't know. And if you can believe it, Jurassic Park didn't spark my interest in them. This movie did. When I went to that movie theater and sat in that chair, for 82 minutes, I was with the dinosaurs. I went to their time, and I went on an adventure with creatures that have been extinct for 65 million years. Cinema gave that to me, and it was the start of a love affair that continues to this day.
Sorry. I forgot about the tie.
Now, I don't think it's any secret that I'm not the biggest supporter of the direction movies are going in nowadays. In fact, the general consensus amongst film fans seems to be that Hollywood has definitely taken a wrong turn somewhere. In what way exactly? Well, there is the typical argument that you would hear, "I'm telling you, man, it used to be about the films. Now it's all about the money. There used to be some art to it, man. There ain't no film industry. It's just industry, man." Whoa, you just blew my mind. Like, not even joking. Yeah, man. For real, for sure, yeah. Yeah, no, like, we should probably hang out more. Oh, what? My point being, there is definitely truth to that. Hollywood's motivations are the same as they've always been.
It's not about the money, money.
Yes, it is. But the fact is that Hollywood has always been a business. I'm saying there used to be a balance between the industry side of Hollywood and the creative side. And that in recent years, we may have maybe lost something important. But why is this happening now and not 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 50 years ago? When I say, should we fear for cinema, I'm not implying that cinema is going to disappear or die. I'm asking if this gradual descent into bland is going to continue, and what caused it in the first place. When I go to the cinema, what I'm looking for is that immersive experience. I want to get lost in the world that's on screen. I want to get invested in a character, care about what happens to them. I want to get caught up in their story. Now, there is the typical argument out there that people who feel the need to do that on a regular basis are trying to escape reality, to run from their problems. Well, the truth is, this is definitely a falsehood. A misconception, better yet. I don't need to tell you that the enjoyment people get out of escapism is actually a way of dealing with reality, coping with their problems, and finding the strength to face up to them. We're not even always aware of it, but a good story with interesting, sympathetic characters can teach us a lot about ourselves. But the characters don't even have to be sympathetic. That's the wonderful thing about it. There are so many possibilities that, when in the hands of a good storyteller, any story can be worth watching. Just look at the movie Drive. If you haven't seen it, it's great. Captivating performances across the board, minimal use of dialogue in exchange for brilliant visual language, immaculate editing, a blood-pumping original soundtrack, and flawless direction. Fucking goddamn masterpiece, this movie. Well, what's it about, you ask? Well, Ryan Gosling is a driver, and he drives for criminals, and he drives for movies as well, and he's really good at driving. And like, he falls in love with his neighbor and her son, and then he gets mixed up with the wrong people, and they want to kill him because he has their money. The bad guys want their money back, god damn it. My point being that it's a pretty simple story, but in the hands of these fantastic filmmakers, it elevated the material to one of the best movies I've seen in a very, very long time. Too long of a time. The majority of films that Hollywood crank out these days are generic and stale. Not to mention the fact that about 90% of mainstream releases tend to be either a remake, a reboot, or sequel. And whatever the hell that was. Movies like Jaws, Apocalypse Now, Star Wars, Taxi Driver, Superman, just to name a few. All timeless classics now, but the directors of those movies had a lot of trouble with the studios getting them made. But the point is that they got made. Hollywood has never liked to take risks, but they used to do it a hell of a lot more than they do now. Which is surprising to me, because the main reason some of the world's most successful films ever happened was because a studio took a chance.
Bob Shaye and Michael Lynn, God, you did the most risky thing that I think anyone has ever done in this industry, and I'm so happy for you that it paid off.
To hell with that. Somewhere along the road, something made Hollywood feel the need to stop taking risks.
I mean, what happened? Your balls drop off?
There are exceptions to every rule, of course, and that's for a reason that I'll get onto later. So what is it that has made Hollywood start playing it safe? And I mean really, really safe. Cause and effect. And we, ladies and gentlemen, are the cause. We live in such a technologically advanced society now that the act of going to the movies has become more of a rarity in our lives. Today you can watch a movie on your computer, iPod, phone, tablet. You can download them, you can stream them. Everything is on demand. And not just movies. Music, pictures, videos, communicating with friends. It's everywhere. For the first time, humans have infinite entertainment. Constantly. So going to the movies isn't that magical thing it used to be. Now, people just go and they just watch stuff, as they would any YouTube video, or one of those goddamn Vines. The only difference being that they got up and left the house. Okay, so what have we figured out? Less people are going to the movies due to advancements in technology. Hollywood's response? Oh my god, fellas, we're losing them. Listen here now, we need to think of a plan to get the people coming back. Well, think sir. Did any really famous or timeless or even simple, well-respected motion pictures, were any of them sequels or remakes? No, goddammit, most of them were original ideas, thought up by creative people with a vision. Well, how about we give them a bit more creative freedom to explore new territory and see if that brings people back, see? Good thinking. Don't you just wish that were true? It worked before, so why not try it again? But no. Instead, the industry said, let's do away with new ideas and ambitious stories. They panicked, and resorted to one of the most simple-minded tactics they could have come up with. If it's recognizable, it's bankable. Suddenly, everything we were given had something to do with a name that was already established. Sometimes this meant just slapping on the next movie. Sometimes this meant rebooting the original, and of course making it dark, without the substance to justify a more serious tone. And sometimes this even meant looking for a pre-existing series of books, because that gives you more material to keep making movies out of. And then when you run out of books, just split the last one into two. They'll never notice. It didn't matter though. People bought the ticket for the name. As we established earlier, going to the cinema is more of a rarity, especially with younger demographics, who tend to be Hollywood's target audience. So when people do go, unless they actively take an interest in film, chances are they're gonna pick the movie where they have some idea what to expect. Not to mention, these are the films that get marketed to death. I mean, how many times have you seen the trailer for The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Too many? Yeah, me too. Hollywood has always had its trends, but as I said earlier, it's all about having a balance. In this case, a balance between the original and familiar. But nowadays, the trends just take over the multiplexes. Classic fairy tales turned into epic adventure movies, or gory tween films. Vampires with a romantic teen twist. Zombies with a romantic teen twist. Getting the 80s action star to come back for one last movie. Damn. I was already 20 years into retirement. Found footage horror movies. Found footage just because. And the king of them all, the comic book movies. Good lord, the comic book movies. I mean, Hollywood is just drowning in these things. And don't get me wrong, I like a few of them. I mean, there's so goddamn many that some of them are bound to be good. But, wow. I mean, it feels like every other month, there's a new one coming out. And mark my words, when you go see it, you'll catch a trailer for the next one that's on the way. And you know, for all the complaining I do about Marvel, I really admire their accomplishment. They are dominating this industry right now. It's gotten to the point where just about everything they release, no matter the quality, becomes a smash hit, just because of the turnout on opening weekend. As I've said before, I've made my peace with this studio. I really don't like much of what they release, and I often find myself on the opposite side of the discussion when talking about anything Avengers related. That's just me. It's all a matter of personal taste, and I can totally respect the people who just want to devour this stuff because I'm the exact same way, just with movies that are to my taste. You know, good ones. But I will admit, I am looking forward to some of Marvel's upcoming projects. What really worries me is the fact that a lot of mainstream films are starting to look kinda similar to each other. And this is really frustrating, because this usually stems from a movie studio intentionally trying to look like another movie that was successful. It can range from the color palette, the camera work, musical styles, and it's becoming easier and easier to spot.
Enlist in Starfleet.
Face the monsters that are at our door.
Obligatory. Inception. Was.
I will survive! I will not fall into despair! I will keep myself hardy till freedom is opportune!
If you truly love her, just walk away. If you stay with her, it not only kills your dreams, it kills hers.
You know Steven Soderbergh, director of these movies right here, when speaking at a film festival about his views on what he called the state of cinema, he made one thing about the studios very clear.
The meetings have gotten pretty weird. There are fewer and fewer executives who are in the business because they love movies. There are fewer and fewer executives that know movies. So it can become a very strange situation. I mean, I know how to drive a car, but I wouldn't presume to sit in a meeting with an engineer and tell him how to build one. And that's kind of what you feel like when you're in these meetings. You've got people who don't know movies, don't watch movies for pleasure, deciding what movie you're going to be allowed to make. And that's one reason studio movies aren't better than they are, and it's one reason that cinema, as I'm defining it, is shrinking.
And given the results, that sounds about right. One of my favorite questions to ask people is, what is your favorite film? I think there's a lot you can tell about a person based on the answer to that question, if they answer honestly.
Rachel claims this is her favorite movie. Dangerous Liaisons. Correct. Her actual favorite movie is...
Weekend at Bernie's.
Correct.
People have given me a huge variety of answers over the years, and not one of them has been boring, for one simple reason. When somebody thinks of their favorite film, they're not thinking about a cool shot, or dazzling visual effects, or box office success. They're thinking about how that movie makes them feel when they watch it.
There was something about seeing it in a cinema. We were all scared together. It was a lovely feeling, and people laugh at it now, and I think if you look at it now, it's creaky, and you can see some of the special effects, because I can't. I just see the film as it was that first time.
It's about the emotional connection people form with certain films, and whatever reason we have for choosing them comes from the fact that when we go along for the ride with this story and get invested in these characters, the movie can have an effect that is very specific to us, making that particular story mean more to us as a result.
Don't you let go. Don't let go.
What I think Hollywood has lost is feeling, emotion, humanity. We live in an age where literally anything you can think of can be put to film. And that should be really cool, but amazing spectacle can only make a real impact once an audience has become emotionally invested in the story and its characters. And when talking about most of the movies we are being given, those elements are by the numbers, surface level stuff. And you might say, well, yeah, but if that's what people want to go see, which box office figures clearly suggest they do, then that's the way movies are going. You should just adapt. If it were possible, I'd straight up have sex with CGI, I don't care. Well, while that might be true for a large percentage of the audience, I still think there's a high demand out there for good characters and original stories. And I think those people have relocated from cinema to television. I mean, just look at the success of shows like Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad. Also, think about how people like to watch these shows. They totally binge watch it, episode after episode. Where will the story take us next? People have used the word addicted to describe their feelings about these shows, but I think it's just a result of deprivation. It's perfectly understandable why people would want to watch their favorite shows like this. If you deprive someone of water for a long time and then they get their hands on some, guess what? They're gonna want to drink a lot of it.
There is a perception this is a great era in television and maybe not in film. What do you think?
Come on, I disagree.
I think every film here is, I mean, I haven't seen all of them, of course, because, but they won't be sitting at this table if they weren't exceptional.
TV's definitely kicking some ass, though.
Yeah, I don't think it precludes, what's going on. I think it's, TV, there's incredibly creative stuff happening there.
As a mainstream media, TV is presenting more interesting narrative than most mainstream cinema.
Remember when I said earlier that technology has had an impact on movies? Well, my friends, it's in more ways than one. There's actually a major change going on in the film industry today, and even though it's happening in front of everybody's eyes, most people aren't even aware of it. And that is the conversion from film to digital. Until the early 2000s, just about every major Hollywood release was shot on 35mm film. But then, George Lucas invested a lot of time and resources into getting digital off the ground for Attack of the Clones. When you think back to the Star Wars prequels, do you ever think of The Phantom Menace as looking sort of more like an older film or more traditional film, and the other two looked more animated, more clean and sterile? I thought this throughout most of my childhood, to the extent where, as I had never seen Phantom Menace in the cinema, I actually thought it was made like 7 years before the other two. Which thankfully I was lucky enough to see in the movie theater. But no, it's just because the first one was shot on film and the other two were shot using digital cameras. The fact that I was able to spot this as a kid, at an age where I didn't know the first thing about how movies were made, just shows that there is a significant difference in the digital image and the image of film. Though the quality of the picture wasn't great in Attack of the Clones, digital has come a long way since then. Companies like Red have worked really hard to make their products good enough to replace film as the industry standard. Well, why do that when film is perfectly good? It's great, in fact. Why fix what isn't broken? Well, it's mainly to do with the economic practicality that digital has to offer. Film is a physical material that has to be manufactured and distributed like any other product. This is becoming more and more expensive, so the demand for film is diminishing. Digital is cheaper. If you're making a movie using the studio system and you're shooting on film, then every frame you shoot is costing the studio money. But if you're shooting digitally, then those are just pixels. You can film all day. And that's really the main reason these cameras are becoming more embraced amongst filmmakers. They offer more creative freedom. They can shoot infinite amounts of footage for no cost. They can shoot in low light. They're smaller, faster, more lightweight. They can capture more detail and more resolution than can be captured on celluloid. Another thing to mention is that film has hit its peak. It's not going to get better. The technology has hit a brick wall in terms of evolving the image. Digital is fairly new, and already it offers these amazing things, and it will continue to evolve and improve. Digital is definitely the future. I don't think this means film should become a thing of the past, though, either. There's a certain quality to the image, a grit that I think, at least at the moment, digital just can't replicate. This is a huge debate going on in the industry right now. Many directors embrace the new technology, but there are many filmmakers out there who are still fighting for film, who won't shoot on digital as they feel it's an inferior image. Just listen to the way Quentin Tarantino talks about the issue and what it might mean for him in his movies.
I don't intend to be a director deep into my old age. I'll probably just be a writer. Part of the reason I'm feeling this way is I can't stand all this digital stuff. This is not what I signed up for. And so just even the fact that digital presentation is the way it is right now, it's just,
I'm working.
It means it's television in public. It's just television in public. That's how I feel about it. I came into this for film.
Really, the point that I'm trying to make here is that this is important. It matters a lot to the people that make movies. They care about what movies are turning into, for better or for worse. The reason this bump in technology is so significant is because it has changed the way movies are made. Forever. The digital revolution has opened the door to infinite possibilities. But guess what, Hollywood?
With great power comes great responsibility.
They've definitely been abusing this technology. 3D, it's an amazing thing. We can give dimension to the images we see on screen. That alone is an astounding accomplishment, especially when you consider the limitations that film had not too long ago. But it's rarely used as a storytelling tool. It's just slapped onto everything for marketing purposes. I mean, hey, you can charge more for a 3D ticket. Once Avatar did as well as it did, everything had to be in 3D. And that's the way the film industry works now, ladies and gentlemen. Movies are made in a fast and calculated way. What I think Hollywood doesn't realize is that using statistics of what people like watching, or following in the lead of a film that was popular, while this might lead to people buying tickets and filling seats, it will still only give the audience a taste of something they've seen before. It's actually sort of inevitable when you use this tactic. This can change when you bring in a director with a vision to elevate the material, but remember, you run the risk of the film being something different. So they get your average director for hire who has no vision, who will make whatever dry cracker the studio wants them to make. And so the pattern continues. So let me get to the point of all this. Do I think we should fear for cinema? Well, to be honest, no. No, I do not. I think Ben Stiller sort of summed it up best when talking to Alfonso Cuarón about Gravity and the movie's huge success.
I think it's very important that there are movies like, like Alfonso's movie, which is, hit a chord, and, it's something that people is different. They didn't know they wanted, but they wanted it, and it's taking a chance, and I think that's really important.
And you know what? He's right. In my opinion, the best movies are the ones that get made because the filmmaker needed to tell that story, not because its content is guaranteed to sell tickets. Audiences get truly excited by movies that they didn't even know they wanted to see. That's the thrill that somebody who loves film is looking for. Most of the movies we are given get consumed and then forgotten about in a matter of weeks, sometimes days. And that is no fault of the audience. The films are designed to be that way. But the reason I don't think we should fear for cinema is because, though much of this new technology is being used for the wrong reasons, there are simply far too many creative people in this industry who are getting their hands on it. And they are definitely giving us a taste for things that we didn't even know we wanted. 3D is being used to put us in the environment of the character in an extremely visceral way. CGI can be used to add little touches to a movie, and not necessarily include the destruction of a major city. Seriously, enough with the cities being destroyed. It's not the tools that you don't like. They're actually incredible milestones in the progress of cinema. Peter Jackson even introduced high frame rate to the cinemas with The Hobbit, shooting in twice as many frames per second as a regular film. He believes it's a better 3D experience, and that it replicates real life more than the industry standard of 24 frames per second. He wanted to give the audience an experience that they couldn't get elsewhere. And you know what? This new image garnished a lot of negative feedback. It didn't work as well as they thought it would. But that is someone taking a risk and using this new technology to try and better the cinema-going experience for the audience. And there will always be people like this within the industry. Just like there will always be people trying to further the technology just for the sake of furthering the technology. Now, these are the only two directors to use high frame rates, and seriously, just look at the difference in the way that they talk about it.
I just think it's something that we shouldn't ram down people's throats. It's something that they shouldn't have to pay a premium for. It should be the same price.
We showed 48 and 60. They're both highly superior to 24. What I think is clear is we've got to get off 24. Whether we land on 48 or we go all the way to 60, that's what we're in discussion on right now.
His name is James Cameron, the bravest pioneer. No budget too steep, no sea too deep. Who's that? It's him, James Cameron.
You have to take the good with the bad. But as long as filmmakers remember what's essential to making a good movie, then I think we're going to be okay.
It's always going to be the script and story are going to dictate if your film is good or not. I mean, technology doesn't make a film good. But however, you have a generation today, younger kids who they can love the script and the story, but they're also happy to watch the film on their iPads. They're not going to the movies. When I was young, every weekend I would go to the movies. I didn't even know what was going to be on. Those days are past now, and so I think it's obviously important, script and story and the film's got to be a great movie, but you also want to provide a visceral experience, a spectacle, a huge screen, great sound system. The high frame rates, 48 frames a second, which we've used on The Hobbit, is a much more immersive experience. It pulls you into the film. Good 3D. It's a way of it providing an experience that you can't get at home. So, I think that's just as important now, really, as in terms of just upping the technical ante to provide the spectacle, but story and character is always what counts. It's always the bottom line.
Cinema, like any art form, is like a living thing. It's constantly changing and evolving, so when it gets caught in a rough patch, it will more than likely climb out of it, stronger than it was before. We're already being given a whole variety of things that we have never seen before, just in this last year alone, and a lot of them were even shot on film. So does this mean that I'm condemning sequels, reboots, and remakes? Of course not. There are quite a few that I'm looking forward to, in fact. This is all we're asking for, Hollywood. Just a good balance between what we know we like and what you are yet to show us. Come on, I know you can handle that.
Do you remember the fun we had when we started out all those years ago? We didn't have any money then, did we? We didn't have any time either, but we took risks. Do you remember? We experimented. We invented new ways of making pictures because we had to.
Art is unstoppable, ladies and gentlemen, and as long as cinema remains a part of that, then we will always have a reason to go. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, take it easy till next time.